In this video, let's talk about the factory design pattern and how to implement it using Python with an example. Hi, my name is Jose with Teclado. I teach Python online, and I made this video because one of my students asked me about using classes to handle CSV data, and I wanted to show them how to do it a little bit more easily with the factory design pattern. Let's dive right in. Here we've got a class that takes in a few values, then does a little bit of processing on them, and we're using that class so that when we read a CSV file, which has names, ages, universities, and majors or degrees, then we can take the values from the CSV file and for each line create a person object using the data in the line, and we end up with a person list that we then can use in our program. The factory pattern allows us to define how an object is created given some incoming data. And this is a perfect place to use the factory pattern because we've got some incoming data in the form of a line of text. And we can use the factory pattern to create a method that tells us how that line of text should map into a person object. So let's go ahead and create a class method called FromCSVLine that takes in the class and the line, which is a string. And then all it does is returns CLS, which is the current class, a person class, and passes to CLS the different values in our file, one per argument. So it would pass name as the first argument, age as the second argument, and so forth. Something that we would want to do is make sure to call strip on the line first. So we'll do line.strip.split. We'll split it on the comma and pass that to the person constructor. And that gives us a person object, just like that. And this is how we can type hint that. So now we can simplify this code here because we no longer need to get the different lines and then split it, using the line in multiple places and so forth. What we can do is simply say, that person from CSV line, pass in the line, and that returns a person object. And then we do that for every line in there. If you wanted to skip the first line because the first line is a header normally in CSV files, you can just do that. And that would skip the first line. In my case, we don't have a header line, so we're not going to need to do that. And this is already a great way to do it, but we can use the map function to simplify this a little bit. Because with the factory design pattern and the map function, things become even a bit simpler. So we'll say person list is map. And this is how you do that. Person from CSV line is the function that you want to call for each item in lines, and you're going to get back a map object, which we can turn into a list if we want. But because we're using person list in a for loop, we actually don't need to turn this into a list, and we'll actually save a little bit of memory because map returns a generator as opposed to a list. So we no longer need that. We can simply call it like this. And again, as a reminder, map will call this function on each item of this iterable and return a generator of values. So now we can save that and run it, making sure to call our file the right thing, and we get our output. So this is how the factory design pattern works. Here we've used it in a very simple way from CSV line, but you can see how you could do this from a database row, from JSON as a very popular thing to do when you're interacting with APIs. You can have a constructor from JSON that takes in the JSON response of an API and creates your object, and potentially also creates sub-dependent objects, etc. So it's a good way to simplify how you use and how you create the object at the cost of adding a little bit of logic to the factory method. That's everything for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, but now I need your feedback. Did you like this kind of video? Should I make more videos like this where I address one specific concern or one question from a student? Maybe I should make this a series, one video a week or something like that. Please let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you next time.